about that. They always ask, "Hey Ray, what do you feel is best? Do you listen to?" We were just talking about Robert Kiyosaki. Do you listen to Robert Kiyosaki? Do you listen to your Dave Ramsey? And I think each strategy is very particular for where each person is. You know, they always
Hold
ask,
on.
"Hey Ray, what do
Let me
you feel is cool?" Yeah, so you want to remember what I think it's very specific to talk about where you are in life. It's one of the most important things when we think about cash flow versus appreciation. And I'll tell you, all my rich friends say appreciation,
Sure.
right? When you just getting started, you want cash flow. But let's go deeper into it. We'll talk about a little bit. If you folks have any questions, feel free to hop in the chat, or just unmute yourself. We're happy to hear from everybody.
Absolutely. Cool. We get started. There's the button. For anybody who doesn't know me, it looks like I know everybody in the room, but anybody watching later or anything like that, my name is Seth Timmerman. Been investing in real estate since 2019 or so. Um, I do a little bit of everything in real estate. Right now, I'm actively doing a lot of flips here locally, and then we are running a pretty successful wholesaling business in Virginia, in the Central Virginia market. But I do buy and holds. I love holding small to medium family multifamilies. It's kind of like my niche as far as the holds are concerned. So,
Yeah, love it. Ray Glimp, homeless over 100 doors, 10 plus million in real estate. Um, and Seth mentioned we're pretty active right now. We're being active in real estate. I think right now is one of the best times to be active in real estate. If there was ever a time, find your niche market, stick to it. We're doing a lot of fix and flips. If you see my stuff on social media, I forgot to post when we were there, Seth, but we're doing a new segment. I'm calling it 30-day fix and flips. And we're showing you folks how to do this in 30 days. And not just fix and flip, but we're talking buy and hold, Airbnbs, although I hate it. Dealing with tenants, we talk about it all. So whether you're a new landlord looking to become a landlord, we welcome everybody here.
I got a rent payment today on the 15th, not the first. It was due. It's not due till the first.
I got a late rent payment today, so
Mine was early. I guess that was my good news a little early. Before we get started, though, views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization. Content provided is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional, legal, medical, or financial advice. Listeners are encouraged to conduct their own research and consult with appropriate professionals before making any decisions based on the information provided in this podcast. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk.
awesome. Next on one of our favorite segments, Gold Diggers. If anybody had any accomplishments that they want to discuss, now is the time. If you guys want to share publicly, we'd love to hear from you. I can share that Seth and I's most recent flip is under contract and set to close this week. 2 days, 2 days, six-figure flip. And I have another building that I'm putting under contract. We should be under contract this week, and it's a $3 million contract. So I'm excited to close on that one.
It's awesome.
Anybody else want to share? Going once, going twice. All right, let's move on, Seth.
So I found this part of the RIA that I host is not a part of the national RIA, but the RIA that I came from in Central Virginia is actually a chapter of the National Real Estate Investors Association, and they put out a bunch of stuff. Really good information as far as just data and recent news and things of that nature. I found two good things here today. Um, Kind of goes one with more on the flip side, in my opinion, and then one on the landlord side. This on the flip side, with the buyers and sellers, what their generational trends are. Um, Stuff like 3% of your buyers are in that Gen Z pool, but 47% of those people are single. So that tells me that if you've got, you know, the highest share of the single people that are buying homes are going to be in the Gen Z market, then if you have those small 600, 650 square foot homes that you're looking to flip, you want to make it so that it appeals to somebody in that age bracket. You're not going to appeal to somebody that's in their late 70s for that small type of house. You want to appeal to that single Gen Zer. Same thing with the young millennials. 12% of all buyers are young millennials. 71% of them are first time home buyers. So if you're doing these entry level flips and stuff like that, you're doing it for the first time home buyer. Understand it's probably going to be in that young millennial or Gen Z market. So
Yeah.
put your finishes to those touches and stuff like that.
I would even look at this like not just the buyer pool when you talking about finishes, but look at who you're renting to too.
Mhm.
Right? You want to put those same type of touches and finishes to your rental because you want to appease to these people. Because typically it's I go from renting to home ownership. Right? People usually don't make the jump from, okay, I'm moving from my parents' house, I'm going right to home ownership. There's a rental period. So you wouldn't look at things that are on the market right now and see what you can incorporate into your rentals to give it that touch to attract. If you want to attract a better clientele, that's what I usually do. I'm looking at things, finishings, colors, details, flooring, even window treatments that they're using in flips. I'm looking at those to see, hey, what could I put in my rental to help me find a better and attract a better tenant? So I think this is all great information. Know, and we always speak of this, but know who you are selling to, right? Whether it be a flip or whether it be a renter, know who is your end client. Now, if you got a flip in the hood, know who's your end client. If you have a nice rental in a class area, know who is your end client. Know what type of finishings they may want because you want to attract the best clients that you can.
Yep. It works in all sides of real estate, like, but in retail, right? Like Macy's, they have a clientele, they have a client avatar. Same thing for you. If you're a flipper, what's your avatar for this house, right? If you're a landlord, what's your avatar? What's your renter going to look like? If you're a wholesaler, what's your investor going to look like,
Hmm.
right? Are you selling this to somebody that's going to be a landlord? Or are you selling this to somebody who's a flipper? Because you talk to those two people differently. So even a
Yep.
wholesaler has their ideal avatar, right?
Yep. You got to know
Understand
your client. In any
who.
business, you need to know your client. Whether it be sales, whatever business you in, you need to know your client. This just speaks more to that of knowing your clients and whatever you're doing.
Yep.
All right.
The other one I found was talking about its apartments list is what it's called. The source from it that it came from, but just showing the national median rent from 2017 to now. Um, I don't know. I don't know if this broke down. I think this is just an average of all bedrooms, so it doesn't have like a specific category there. Um, but one of the things they were taking away from this is in the last 24 months, give or take, you see the ebbs and flows of the seasonality, which we all know and stuff like that, but it is slightly starting to trend in a downward direction.
Yeah.
Um, and you're not seeing year over year growth.
I want y'all to know too, like one, what we saw during COVID isn't the normal.
Is that right?
All right. So the things we saw during COVID, where we see these large rent bump ups, that isn't normal as a landlord. Like typically it's gonna slowly ebb forward. But we're not gonna see these large bumps. This isn't normal. That wasn't normal. Um, you can see how much inflation has continued to run with these bumps though.
So
Um,
this is a normal
that's a normal
growth,
trend.
right? 2017, 18, 19, and even into 20.
And if
This
we
is
chug
normal,
along that, you're still over a 3 year period, you don't go up $100 on your rent.
right?
Right.
And
Maybe
now
even four.
if you're ebbing down now, it's more of just a correction to get back to where this line was going to be anyway.
Yes. And so that when we talk to you guys, we want you to think about like if you're doing buy and hold, there might be some softness in the market. There's new inventory coming online. So you want to think about if you're just rehabbing something versus something brand new, you got to compete with that. You got to compete with brand new. So make sure again, it goes to the same sentiment. Know your end tenant and client, know what they're expecting. Rents have risen dramatically. They aren't going down much though, right? Unless in like in a Florida market where there's a ton of inventory and more inventory coming on, but they still aren't going down to 2017, 2018. Before we did this call, actually, I was looking at rents for my market and for a building that I've owned for, I want to call it 6, 7 years. And a one bedroom I was getting 550 for. Today I signed that one bedroom for 948. It's crazy to think about, right? Almost double the price.
Yep.
So these aren't normal numbers, and I don't expect it to double in the next 4 years. Now, maybe in the next 10 years, maybe. If I see 10 years of growth and it doubles, great. If it doesn't, and I see a small growth, I'm great with that too. You want to invest with cash flow in mind. That's what we're going to lead into. Invest with cash flow in mind from the beginning and make sure the asset cash flows from what it does rent for, what market rents for. And even worst case scenario, if it rents do soften, you still have some leverage.
Yep.
All right. So the battle with the beast. This is what everybody wants to talk about, especially, I mean, we're talking about going to limitless. This is what they're going to be talking about heavily, cash flow versus appreciation. Um, we're going to break down tonight what it really means, what the strategy really means, how to invest that with each strategy in mind, the profiles for each investor, and why it's not always one or the other. Honestly, I want both. As an investor, I want both. I don't want one or the other. I want both. Now, if you're in a certain point in life or you have a, high paying W-2, you might just want appreciation. You might not want the cash flow as much. But if you're getting started, you may want the cash flow. So if y'all can, put in the chat. We want to hear from y'all. Which corner are you in? Do you want cash flow? Do you want appreciation? Put in the chat. I want to hear from y'all as we go through this. Seth, anything you want to add to that?
It's also very market specific on this as well. And it even mentions later on, right, like where in the country you are. There are places that just don't see. West Virginia is famous for not seeing great appreciation rates, right? Like the market that Ray and I are both in, and a lot of people on the call. Doesn't mean it's a bad place to invest. I think it's probably one of the best places in the country to invest.
Yeah.
Um, but it's all about what your play is. And I agree with what Ray's saying. I'm not heavy towards either one. I'd love to have them both. Um, but it's more of the deal, right? Like
Hmm.
what makes the deal, right? Is it if the appreciation is marginal at best, like 1, 2, 3% per year, then
Hmm.
the cash flow is going to be a lot greater, right?
Yeah.
But if the appreciation is a lot greater, then you can take that smaller, and that's where a lot of people start talking about the big argument, right?
Well, let's get into it. I don't want to jump too far ahead because we could talk about this and then reveal everything.
Yeah, right.
So, uh-oh, lost a picture. It's all right. Um,
I spent a
think-
lot of time drawing these pictures.
it's all right. The thing about cash flow, one, you get the predictable monthly income, right? You know how much money is coming. And I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's no better feeling. There is no better feeling. I've owned bars, restaurants, other companies, and most of those companies, you never know when you're getting paid. Right? I'll be honest with you, in restaurant business, you could make a bunch of money and then all of a sudden, business gets slow and you don't know if you can pay yourself, right? When you can pay yourself and it's you're getting the same amount every month, it's a pretty good feeling, right? Even when the market turns, typically you protect it, right? Especially depending on what type of investment. You got Section 8, you protect it. Even with an A class, most of your A class tenants are going to pay, especially if it's a business, they're going to pay. As long as their job is paying, typically they're going to pay. They need a house over their head. Okay. Um, and the thing about this is great for if you're just starting out or you're looking to quit your W-2, right? So I know a lot of y'all looking to quit your job. You want the freedom. You want to make good money monthly. Cash flow is going to be king. Cash flow, I consider like your lifeblood of this, right? Cash flow is your lifeblood. You need the blood to circulate through you. Um, it's very easy to measure, right? Typically, the numbers don't really change as much. Your rental amounts don't really change, especially in a stable market. You might get the same amount of money for the rest of your career, right? You might have some small raises. How many of us know old landlords, tired landlords that you'd be like, man, your rent's still $400? How are you still making it? They've done paid off their property at that point. They just want they just want the reliable cash flow. They don't even care about raising the rents or improving the property. They just want the check every month, right? That's
Mhm.
a whole different level of cash flow, right? Because they're not looking for appreciation. They've gotten appreciation over the time, but you need that cash flow to give you that freedom. Okay. Um, so cash flow is something is a measurable number. something you can definitely measure, something you can definitely bank on versus appreciation. That's kind of one of the upsides for me, and that's how I view it. Um, and also the quote at the bottom, cash flow keeps you in the game when things get tough. 100%, right? You need, and just like a business, because real estate is a business, you need cash flow to keep your business open. If the cash flow stops, the doors close, right?
Yep.
Um, so you do need that money in the bank, hitting your bank every single month. Seth, anything you
Yeah.
want to add on top of that?
It's rough. I've sat in the active income flipping houses, and that was my primary source. I didn't have any rentals or anything like that, right? And I closed two flips in 1 year. I got two checks. I got two deposits, really, all year long.
Mm,
I made a good amount on both properties. Like I was happy with what I made for the year, but I really only got two checks, you know?
mm.
And all the stuff that you go through, the minutia that we go through on these inspections and all the final punch lists and stuff like that to get these to the finish line, it's tough. If you don't have a cushion, it's super, super tough because things can
Yeah.
get pushed back. Closing dates never happen when closing dates are supposed to happen. It can be stressful, and this is kind of like that W-2, that guarantee. I'm going to work my 40 hours and I'm going to get this much. This is I've got this many in here, and it's going to give me this much money, right? Especially if you set it up with raise calculator the right way, where you've got your your capex and you've got your vacancy and you've got all that set aside. What your true cash flow number is versus what your pretend cash flow number is
Yeah.
my mortgage is 1,000, I get 1,500, so I'm really making 500. That's a pretend cash flow number.
You want the real number. The other thing is you need here's the thing. When we talk about cash flow versus appreciation, if you don't have no cash, the game's over, right? You got no cash, game over. You need to have money in the bank. You need to have money consistently coming in, especially if you want to afford a certain lifestyle. Cash is king, right? You need to know how much money I have coming in when the first of the month hits. Very important. Cash is the lifeblood. And let's go to appreciation. I want to get there so that way we can start dissecting these and get into some nitty gritty.
Let's go.
All right.
I
Pictures messed up. Uh-oh.
almost want to refresh just so that I can have my very
Those are
hard
good
draw.
pictures too. Um, appreciation. So when we talk about wealth, appreciation is one of the things that we talk about. All right. That's your money growing over time, your money growing with inflation. Right. Now cash flow just comes in every month, but the appreciation is a whole nother tool. Um, appreciation is more of a wealthy play. Right. We're thinking long term. We don't need it to survive right now. Appreciation is almost an invisible number. Right. It's money that you can't touch, you don't recognize it until you recognize it, till you do something to trigger that money. So that might be a sale of the property, that might be a refinance, right? But typically the appreciation just sits there. It's just an invisible number that an appraiser or somebody else sees the value of. Okay. Um, but it's a way you can leverage and put your money to work way harder, way easier. Okay. Now, if you're in a great market, so cash flow is, if let's just say for an example, you're in Ohio, you're going to get steady cash flow, right? You might even have some cash flow growth, but typically in a market like Ohio, not much appreciation. The rents, the values of the property stay the same. You can still buy a property for 80,000 that you could buy for 60,000 15 years ago, right? It hasn't really appreciated much, but the cash flow is there. Okay. So you have what we call our cash flow markets. We have our appreciation markets. So an appreciating market is a market where we see a lot of population growth. There's a strong demand in those areas, which drives up the value of the houses. So you might look at, a Texas, California wouldn't be one anymore, but a Texas, a Florida, even a New York City is still an appreciating market, believe it or not. I looked at some houses today and the rent was like $8,000 a month. For just like a brownstone. And so you want to be an appreciating market. You might not see the rent growth or you might not see the cash flow because the rents or the mortgage is usually very expensive. The purchase price is usually very high to get into appreciating market. You're usually buying a different type of asset. So typically strong in the high growth urban markets, and it's usually going to be passive after stabilization, right? You need to get the asset stabilized. Got to get it from like if you're buying it undervalue, there's definitely going to be a lot of work that needs to get done. But once it's stabilized, you might be able to make a little bit of spread, right? But you're not banking on a spread on appreciation play. You're banking on a growth more than anything. The cash flow is there, but you need the property to appreciate. You looking for 2 to 3% appreciation time over time. Now, there is also what we call forced appreciation, right? Where I buy something and I force the value of it. I buy it and I rehab it and force the value. So if I buy it for 100 and I put 20 into it, 50 into it, and they come back and say it's worth 220, I force that appreciation. I force that value. Um, so I saw a lot of y'all put cash flow, some of y'all put both. I ain't see no appreciation. I didn't see any appreciation. All right. That mean we all broke. I'm broke with y'all. Don't worry. Everybody want the cash flow. The cash flow is equal to freedom, right? I
But
see
it
a lot.
comes down
Go
with
ahead.
that question, right? Cash flow versus appreciation. Like the forced appreciation that you're talking about, like that's the Burr method,
Hmm.
right? And it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. Is it a refi or is it a cash out refi?
Yeah.
Right? If it's a
And so
cash out refi, then you're eating into that
you
cash
eat gains. Yeah. You eat into what could be particular
but
gains.
you're realizing that forced appreciation by
Yeah.
pulling out that cash out, right?
Yeah.
So
And I look at this as just like a stock, like, hey, I could buy Apple 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? I could have got a dividend. The dividend might be small, but the growth is what's going to build me the wealth, right? It's a growth vehicle. So real estate again is a growth vehicle. You're not going to get rich overnight. That's the key for this. You might make cash flow overnight. You can do that. Getting rich, getting wealthy, you're not going to do it overnight. All right. So if this was your dream, if that was your dream in here, I hope to not to burst your bubble, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Um, Appreciation builds wealth, but it doesn't pay the bills right away. And that is so true. It is just like with anybody getting started with a business. If you're in a business, a lot of people think I'm gonna start this business, I'm gonna be wealthy as soon as it doesn't work like that.
right.
Doesn't work like that. It takes work, it takes time. I didn't get here from, overnight 2 years. I look at videos of me, 10 years ago painting walls. And I'm like, man, I can't believe that was 10 years ago. Right? The buildings I bought, like I said, that building maybe a 6 year, 7 year hold. The rents went from 550 to uh 948, something like that. Rents doubled, right? So when I think about rents doubling, now it becomes all right, the rent doubled. Well, what is the building worth? Now I don't check the appreciation. I don't really check the worth of those buildings. You refresh them. I don't really check the worth of those buildings. But I start like when you start thinking about it, okay, last time I refinanced this building was about 4 or 5 years ago. It was worth about 850,000. Now the rents have just about went up 30 to 40%. Has my net worth maybe went up 30 to 40%? Quite possibly, right? The debt hasn't changed because we're financing over 30 years, or 20 years. This is a commercial building, so it's over 20 years. The debt hasn't changed. There we go. There we go. The debt hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is the amount of income that's there. Now, taxes have changed, some maintenance has changed. But again, it's a long-term hold. That's over 5 years. Now, imagine you get to that 10-year period, 15-year period, 20-year period. You've seen your building and other buildings go around you from those little houses to other big buildings around you. That's when you start to recognize the appreciation. You're like, wow, this is what happened, right? And that's what happens in a good. And then for appreciation, you got to be in a good area, right? They're depreciating areas as well.
Yeah.
So don't fall for the trap of like, okay, I'm just gonna wait and hold on to this for 20 years and it'll be worth $1 million. Could be worth the same amount in 20 years.
Yep. We see
So
it a lot with the people in one of the strategies, the tax strategies people talk about a lot is 1031 exchange too, right? They're realizing their appreciation through that. They're
mm,
buying a portfolio. Typically, they buy a portfolio of single family homes, right? They get 5, 10, 15, 20 of them, whatever it is. and it's appreciated over time. Now let's realize that. Let's sell this off as a portfolio and put that money into a 10 unit, a 20 unit, a 100 unit building, right? Now you've got one asset that you're controlling, but it's worth a lot more. You realize that appreciation, buying that one house every 6 months, that one house every 6 months. After
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6 years, now you can go and you can buy that 20 unit building.
Yeah. And so when you start in your portfolio, I want you to think about this. Most people, like I said, starting unless you have a high paying W-2, and I'll just put like a high paying W-2 at 100 to 200,000, right? If you're not making 100 to 200,000, you need to be thinking about cash flow. Straight out, you need to be thinking about cash flow. You're making 100 to 200, we can start talking appreciation because some of those, you can write and leverage off of. Your accountant can find some creative ways to save you some money on taxes at that point. But if you're just getting started, cash flow is king. At the end of the day, cash flow is king because even if you're not just getting started, you don't want to start using your cash flow to pay for stuff in the property. Simple and plain. If something break, now you got to pay out of pocket. You're taking money from your W-2 to now pay for this asset out of pocket. Cash flow, I think, is always king, and appreciation is next.
Yep.
Let's go to the next slide, Seth. Um, so which one wins, right? And again, I always hear wealthy people say appreciation. I always say poor people say cash flow. I agree with both. I want both, right? I want to be rich poor, I guess. I don't know. Um, but it depends on your goal. Like if you want to retire yourself, you need cash flow. Appreciation can't retire you. I mean, you can refinance it and then but you need the cash flow, right? To build that generational wealth, that's the appreciation side, right? Because the appreciation can and I've seen it. I'm gonna stick to this. In most areas, if you invest in a good area, appreciation will outweigh cash flow in a good area, right? Because when you refinance a property, you can refi and pull out 200, 300. I'm talking buildings too, but you can pull out 200, 300, 400,000.
Yep.
And you can do that every 4 or 5 years, right? But if you lock it in, you get that generational wealth, and then your kids can tap into it. They get what's called a step up in basis when you pass. Um, but if you want that early retirement, cash flow. There's nothing better than cash flow. It's a mathematical equation. Retirement is nothing more than a math number. How much do you need every month net to you so you don't have to work anymore? And here's the caveat: when you make that money, you still got to work. I still want you to work.
Right.
Don't quit. Don't quit now. I'm still working, y'all. Right? Me and Seth are actively still working. Our
I
work
work.
it look
I
different.
work. I work harder today, like in 2025, than I ever did. I haven't had a W-2 in 10 years, but I
Yeah,
can
it's
tell you
been a
this
while.
much. I work harder in 2025 than I ever did working for somebody else.
Yeah. But you're working for yourself, so that's the thing. The other thing is your market. I think that plays a very specific niche. You want to think about long-term effects. So let's say you're in Florida, you want to think about the effects of global warming. Right? Whether you believe it or not, you want to think about the effect because coastline might not be there in 20 years. For your next generation, it might not be there. Florida's layout might look a little bit different. Texas layout might look a little bit different. California layout might look a little bit different. You want to think about that, right? We're not just talking about real estate for the next 5 years. Great if you are, but if you want that appreciation, we're talking 10, 20 years. That's when you see those big gains. Midwest used to get a bad rap. Midwest it has always been a cash flow market. Is Chicago good for cash flow? Depends. It used to be a heavy cash flow market, but I don't know about right now. Chicago's become more of an appreciation market than anything,
Mhm.
right? So there's opportunity in every market for cash flow, right? I wouldn't put Chicago in one of my top cash flow markets. Midwest is typically going to be like your cash flow heavy. So like Ohio.
Like Milwaukee's pretty close to Chicago. I'd say Milwaukee's probably a much better cash flow market than
Yeah.
Chicago.
hmm Typically, typically the rent where you find expensive rents, you're a little bit behind the curve on cash flow. If you want the cash flow, you start going around the outside, the outskirts to try to get the cash flow. Now, if you go to the outskirts, go a little bit beyond, and let's just say that area grows, and you don't want to base on speculation, you want to base on actual knowledge. These companies are coming to this town, developments coming here. If that grows, though, that's when you recognize the large amounts of appreciation. Then you start seeing more and more cash flow. But you got to buy it right. So that's very important. No matter what area in Chicago, Milwaukee, Wyoming, you got to understand that. Also, your risk tolerance, right? Are you a risk taker? I've rolled the dice on a couple deals, I'll tell you, right? Are you a risk taker? Slow and steady always wins, right? It always does. I've hit some big ones, though. I've hit some big ones.
Taking
Taking those,
risks, taking risks is more fun though.
yeah, yeah, it is. Um, so something to consider for sure. It's fun if you got the money to back it up. That's the
Yeah.
key. Yeah, it's not fun to lose money, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want
No,
y'all to lose money out here.
it's
Um,
not.
can mobile homes work? It depends on zoning. I would doubt it in Chicago unless you could find some land that is outside of city limits. I would highly doubt it in Chicago. They have certain zones, so you want to look at your zoning map and make sure that you check on your zoning map for that. Um,
Much smaller market area and size of the area and stuff like that. But a small city just south of Richmond, Virginia, it's called Hopewell. Very, very, very small. It's not even really a city, in my opinion, but they classify it as a city. Um, we looked at a mobile park in there to purchase,
mm,
and they owned the park and all the units that were in there. So we are looking through all the different financials. The reason why we didn't pull the trigger on that park was because we would be allowed to renovate what was existing until we didn't want to do it anymore. But if something got so dilapidated where we needed to just pull it out and put a new trailer in, the
Well, let
city
you,
would not let us put another one in.
yeah.
So
And so,
definitely when it comes to mobile parks, you're going to have to look at your local ordinances and stuff like that. Get in with your. I was at the code enforcement agency today in a town, right? Like, go and meet those people.
and they just want to help you anyway. So yeah, talk to code enforcement, see what they have. They might have some guidelines for tiny homes. Maybe not mobile homes particularly, but maybe a tiny home might be an option for you.
Yeah.
Um,
We had a
Hybrid markets and bird stress, just like we mentioned. Go ahead, Seth. You want to say something?
Sabrina was her name, right?
Sabrina, yeah.
I
Yep.
don't think she's doing big stuff. And it's all about ADUs and tiny homes.
Hmm?
She's not really doing tiny homes. She's just doing ADUs. Um, but I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to boost up the cash flow and boost up the appreciation as well.
Yeah. So hybrid markets, knowing what your market is, knowing where appreciation is. Like our market is a hybrid market. If you go outside of our main area, our main city, you might find slums one way, you might find the poorest town another way. So you got to know your market and know, hey, look, this one I want to buy and hold, this one I want to fix and flip, this one I don't want in my portfolio at all, right? You need to know that. And then using burr strategies, right? So burr is a way of forcing appreciation, and still getting cash flow. You get the best of both worlds with a burr. So using those strategies are very good. And knowing when to switch lanes, right? Knowing that, all right, I got enough cash flow right now. This might be a appreciation play, right? In the next 5 years, 10 years, the city's building up this area over here. Maybe I want to hold on to this one right here, and I might get the appreciation. If I hold on for 3 years, 5 years, and let the city develop around, because we're seeing that right now in our town,
You
right?
know?
I have a house right now that I was gonna fix and flip, and I decided, you know what? Let me hold on to it for 5 years, 3 years. I got a 3 year play with it. Hold on to it for 3 years. See what development happens because they're supposed to be doing a ton of development in the area, and in 3 to 5 years, I'll sell it. I'll let the city. I'm not forcing. I force some of the appreciation, but I'm gonna let the city force the rest of the appreciation on. Right. So that's another way to look at appreciation as well.
One of the next projects that I think we're going to take down after the one that we're doing now, um, the reverse happened in the
Yeah.
same city, right? He didn't have good knowledge,
Hmm.
and he said that this road there was going to be changes with this road, and the city was actually going to buy his house from him. So he turned down an offer for probably more than it should have been,
Probably
even
like 30,000 over what we're gonna pay.
yeah, more than that. But 3 years ago, I mean, it was just I think a ridiculous. Even if the condition was better back then. But he turned that down because he was like, no, I'm just going to hang on to it and I'll rent it out for a little bit and the city's going to buy it from me when they want to fix this street here. Well, that was bad intelligence, right?
Hmm.
What Ray's talking about is an actual development. We know the developers. We
Yeah.
see the project that's happening. We know, like, so it's factual information. So make
Mhm.
sure that you're not, well, they might do something over here. Make sure it's in the works. It's happening, right? That's when you want to get it.
Yeah. And then even when you do think appreciation, you still got to have cash flow in mind because I need to cash flow this property for the next 3 to 5 years to make sure I can cover the mortgage.
Yeah.
Right. So those are all things you want to think about when you are using the strategy. So I hope we brought you guys some value on this one. Both is always what you want to aim for. Cash flow is key to get you that freedom now.
Yep.
So set your game plan.
I'm a lot more personally, like if I have to lean one or the other, I'm going to lean on appreciation. And the reason why is because I have other tools in my toolbox to create active income,
Hmm.
and I'm still young, right?
Yeah.
Whether my daughter calls me old or not doesn't matter. I'm still young, right? I got the ability to go out there and grind. I don't mind this being the hardest I've ever worked in my life. I have
Yeah.
no problem with that. I'm ready to do it, right? Like 10 to 15 years from now, I want to be able to just
And,
be out,
and, and let's keep it
be out
real.
on
Most
golf
people
course.
are
Yeah,
begging for appreciation on their personal home.
sure.
They're just banging on appreciation. I see Jared's on from Exclusive Movers. If he has a not a W-2, he's a business owner, right? So he doesn't necessarily need the income. He can continue to work his business,
Yep.
right? And this property sit there and gain some appreciation. He has a little bit of cash flow just to cover the bills, because that's the most important thing. You got a little cash flow to cover the bills, and then you got a little bit on the side. But then you get the appreciation as you're sitting on it, right? He continues to work, and the property continues to appreciate. The property's working for him too,
Yeah, I
right?
agree. I'm a cash flow guy for sure.
Yeah.
But the appreciation, I definitely need to get on that side too.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it just depends on where you at. If you don't need the cash flow in your life, if you, like I said, if you're making 100 to 200,000 and plus, and you're not like, man, I could really use an extra 500 to 1,000, right? Get the appreciation in, right?
Do a burr with a refinance and not a cash out refinance,
Yeah.
right?
And here's the truth, like not everybody
Your
has the
cash
skill
flow just
set.
went up $200,
Not
right?
everybody has the skill set to do a burr.
You're right.
So I want to put it out there like you don't have to do that, right? Just buy the property, right? If you buy the property right, you might have appreciation. You might walk into some appreciation just by buying it right. Um, but this is very important. Know your why before you pick your play. Right. Understand like this is me. I don't need the money right now. I'm keeping my job for the next 5 years. I just want to park my money. I got 30,000, 40,000. I want to park it somewhere. I want a tenant paying it down and I'll be all right. Some people are totally comfortable with that. Know who you are before you do it, okay? Um, Max your strategy, the resources. Like I said, if you got the money sitting around burning the holy pocket, if you sitting on 40,000, you're like, yo, I'll never make this money again. We gonna look for cash flow. All right. We need to look for cash flow for you. Um, but even through time though, you got to continue to evaluate your plan. Right? Because we all not gonna be young. Here's the thing, we all not gonna be able to do what we do 20 years from now, 30 years from now. We wish we would, but the reality is Father Time will take it from all of us. I just had a medical emergency for one of my tenants. He didn't even know what year it was. He thought it was 1979.
Yeah.
Right. Father Time will take it from any one of us at any given time. So we got to appreciate what we do have and maximize the value of our time. So whether it's appreciation or cash flow, maximize the value. Understand what you are looking for. Keep evaluating, keep evolving. Um, Best investors understand both, and that's what we're here to teach you. You could just go cash flow, that's cool. But when do you stop looking for cash flow? Right?
That's the great thing about real estate. There isn't a right answer,
Yeah.
right? Like buy and hold versus fix and flip, right? What about wholesale? What
The
about
answer is both. I
right?
gotta say the answer for this one is both. You need both.
Yeah, it's just know what you're really get good at something. Find
Mhm.
something you're passionate about, right? There's so many different ways to make money in real estate. You
So many.
cash flow versus appreciation. That's just two different ways, right?
Yeah.
Find something that you're passionate about and that you enjoy, that you can get up and be excited to do, and you're going to be successful. Period.
Yeah. Biggest key, are you building income, wealth, or both?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you two either think or define cash flow?
Cash flow is a monthly income or your income that is coming in from your passive investment, right? So if I make 500 a month off this rental, that is my cash flow. 500 a month.
So you're not, so for example, like that's after considering like your financing expenses and then your
Yeah,
capex.
whatever I'm netting is my cash flow.
Okay, so after capex and all that stuff.
After everything, this is what I put in my pocket. If I put $100, that's my cash flow.
Okay.
All right. So that's how I look at it. I want my cash flow to be what's net to me. Because I could say this property brings in $20,000, right? But my net might only be $200. And it's people with properties like that. Is that a good cash flow? No, it's terrible cash flow. Right. And so you need to strategize at that point. It's all about what's net to you. Right. And that's how I look at cash flow. This is net to me. This is going in my pocket every month. A lot of people tell you, yeah, I make 100,000 a month. But what's your net? Right. Oh, my net's like 1,500. Wait a minute. You got all this debt and you making 1,500 a month. That don't add up, brother. So I'm looking at cash flow fed as a net to me in my pocket every month. Right now, it's gross cash flow and then it's net cash flow. Two ways to look at it. But for you guys, I want y'all to look at net. Let me see. Somebody said, even if you have a higher income, having my real estate pay for itself and my supplies, like nice to have tools that cash flow. Nice. I love paying my expenses with cash flow. Yeah. I mean, that's the purpose of it, right? You want to pay yourself, you want to pay for your tools, I mean, every month the tenant's paying that property down. So you get some type of appreciation no matter what, right? You get some type of cash flow no matter what. And you might not recognize it, but you get the cash flow no matter what. But we're talking about net to you cash flow. So I think that's important to discern as well.
Yeah, everybody likes to share their top line revenue numbers, right? Their gross numbers and all that different stuff, right? But bottom line is at the end of the month, how much is left for you, right? As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that's what's most important to us, right?
Yeah.
If I've got to spend $98,000 to make $100,000 a month, I don't know, right? What's your risk tolerance there? What happens if you make $95,000 one month and they still spend the 98,000? You lost a month and a half of your projections, right?
Yep.
So understand the risk tolerance and the high line versus that net line. That net line is what you need to look at. That's what's most important.
When you're getting started, net's going to be most important. I had a sewer line break on one of my projects a couple years ago. I think my net on that project was like, at the time, was like $800 or something like that. Sewer line cost me 10 G's to get fixed. I lost my income for a year on that house.
Yep.
Right. That's net to you though. Right. I lost that net. So now I'm still net cash flow. Now it's cash flowing net $800 a month because I don't got to pay for that sewer line again. But I lost that year. So net is very important to understand.
Yep.
So let's go on. I think we just got all right. Inner Circle. I think everybody here Inner Circle. If you guys aren't, just send a DM. We'd love to get you in. Talk to you one-on-one. Tomorrow's Inner Circle call is happening. We saw we missed some people last week. I got a couple texts, but we are having it next tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That was our first call we missed, so pretty proud of us. But we missed for good reason too. I was stuck in a real estate seminar course, and Seth was traveling for a real estate business as well. So both busy, but both here to make time for you folks. I did have some one-on-one calls with some people. So, investing during inflation. So right now, a lot of you guys, it's a hot topic. How to protect and grow your wealth throughout. We're here to hopefully protect you, help you watch you grow. Learn about investing is key, all types. Right now, I wish Abraham was on. He'd be proud. I've been trading stocks just since for some free time. I've been doing pretty well. But you have to be an investor, right? Your W-2 will not help you catch up, right? If you do not own your own business, you cannot give yourself what's inflation right now? There was like 9% inflation. I don't know if any of y'all got a 9% raise if you work in a W-2.
Yeah, exactly.
You might get 3%. But if you own your own business, you can raise prices 9%. Hopefully bring up your net 9%. right? And 9% might mean if you're charging $100 for a service, you charge 109 now. Most of the time, it don't scare the consumer. So, you got to make sure you're invested, whether it be real estate, stocks, whatever. We love real estate because it's a big hedge against inflation, right?
Yep.
So, and it's passive. It's taxed differently too. That stock move I've made is going to be taxed heavily. So, um, we'll be talking about that. Join the free Facebook group if you do. If you aren't, we got a whole school community as well. Love to talk to some more of you folks there. And let's continue to invest. Inner Circle, I'll see you tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's time for me to go work out. Fortunately, I'm looking forward to it. Cash flow is what feeds your lifestyle. Appreciation is what funds your freedom. It was a perfect quote.
Yeah.
Ashley said, when's the race? I run that marathon, that half marathon in April, May 17th. So less than 30 days. I run a half marathon. I ran 8 miles the other day. My body feels it, all of it too. I'm getting old. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you. Clarissa, get to work. I saw your post, great post. You encouraged me today, so I appreciate it. I'll see everybody else tomorrow, 12 p.m. Thanks, guys.